got a really exciting show today. It's going to be a bit different to my other programs. And that is because I have a trusty co-host with me, my dear friend Janelle. Welcome to the Social Frequency.
Welcome, Georgia. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And the reason that I have asked Janelle to come and talk with me today and give me a hand is because we're going to be speaking with Jody. Jody, what's your last name?
Well, I don't tend to give it out.
Great. I love the anonymity.
It's like
Madonna.
Yeah.
Madonna.
I'm like Cher. Yeah. I'm showing my age now, aren't I?
No, if we could turn back time, but no.
So we're joined by Jody from QuantiMama, and we're going to talk about all things giving birth, and I'm excited to hear about placenta supplements and all that sort of stuff. So that's not being a mother myself, I have asked Janelle to come and join us just to give a mother's voice a bit of extra flavour to the show. So thank you for coming.
Thanks, George.
Let's just usually we listen to a song to get warmed up, but I feel like we're feeling pretty warm. So let's just get straight into it. Jody, what is QuantiMama? Tell us.
QuantiMama, well, it's funny because I really wanted to capture mothers and mothers tapped into the quantum field. I'm really interested in that space, and that's, I mean, gosh, we could spend an entire, conversation around that. But essentially the quantum is that everything is energy. So everything in the world is energy when you boil it down to it. Our thoughts have energy. We have the ability to, words around manifestation and things like that. And so how you create your reality. And I wanted to bring that into both the birth space and into the parenting space, because I actually think it's really missing from the conversation. And when you start noticing that, the kids, and Janelle's nodding away, right, because we have kids that we, share that as mothers, they're so much more aware of it. And so I think the sneaking suspicion is we are dumbed down as we get older, disconnected from that awareness. And so QuantiMama is all about bringing essentially a high vibration into your world, infusing that with your parenting, infusing it with your birthing, infusing it just with your day-to-day. And, look, I came from 18 years in ambulance, so I was a paramedic for a fair chunk of my professional life, and I think it gave me, I guess, probably a more unique perspective on how we can do life well, because I saw, how quickly life could be extinguished. And I feel so much more comfortable with the whole death cycle as well as birth cycle, because they're the very fabric of life. And so how do we get the juice out of life? Well, we've got to find ways to keep bringing the frequency up. So there's a lot of that language, vibration, frequency. I love all those words.
Yeah. This is something we contemplate a lot as healthcare workers, Janelle and I. It's something that has become normalised through our work, but I think in a really powerful way, because why stigmatise something that sort of just it's part of life?
Correct.
Isn't it? So what does a high vibration, high frequency pregnancy and birth look like? What does it involve?
Well, it's definitely not what we're seeing in traditional medicine. I can tell you that right now. So I think it's really about, firstly, when you recognise what happens with Mother Nature. Everything happens in absolute perfect unfolding. Nothing is there by mistake. And I think what's happened for women is that they have had that belief essentially extinguished from their consciousness.
And do you find a lot of women are fearful as well, because they think it's that Hollywood birth where they're slapping the partner and give me the drugs and screaming?
Absolutely. And I think there's so many layers to this. Firstly, I suspect in our society we have been hoodwinked into thinking we need drama in our lives. So if you want a high vibe life, start looking at where you're attracting and disseminating drama and start dislocating that addiction, which is what it is, right? But the war story thing, and I saw that obviously a lot in ambulance, and, you know, ambulance has got this kind of hero thing where you're in there, you've got a cape, but no one can see it, but you're sort of saving the day, and it's a really feel-good job because you're very effectual in the crisis moments for people. And that then can really, you know, bring their awareness about, you know, what's happening in their life. But what I noticed was that people would get stuck on the drama of it as well. I'm like, we're not bringing the wisdom out of it. You know, the wisdom is where it's at. How do you better your life? How do you better the life of your community members, your family members? Like, how do you find the goodness and move forward from there? And I certainly see within the pregnancy birthing landscape, we have completely eroded it. And what we've also eroded is how our men can feature in the birth of our babies as well. You know, they're kind of there for the glory bit at the start, but there's a whole glory bit at the end that they can, you know, really get involved in as well. So, and I just think that's part of the erosion of the family unit. You know, when you birth with your partner as a team, as a, you know, with consciousness for your baby, consciousness for you, consciousness for your partner as well, you know, who really got you into the mess, then you get to actually birth a family. And when you have had an empowered birth, holy smokes, you know your capacity.
Can I just give you a high five?
Yeah.
I can see why Georgia has invited me to meet you.
Yeah.
I think it's glorious. We had water births.
Yes.
And it was at Geelong Hospital back in the day.
Yes.
And it was simply exquisite. I did calm birth, and we just talked about before the show started.
Yeah.
And you taught calm birth.
Yes. You might have seen my birth film. In fact, Calm Birth did use our Hello Baby birth film, which is the birth of our second.
You giving birth?
Well, back in the day, I got a DVD. Is that what you...
Yeah. Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah.
So we've still got the DVD.
Yeah, right.
And what I adored about, you just spoke about before, like disempowering the partner, however that may be nowadays. But what I loved is that it empowered my husband.
Yes.
And if he could have had the baby, Lord knows, if anybody knows my husband, he would have.
Yeah, right.
But he was such a support. And because we learnt together that this is what we're built for.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't always happen vaginally for everyone. I get that.
Yep.
But it's the programming that it helps give you, and that knowledge that, okay, if we need to change tack, that's okay. We can do this. And the breathing and just the relax and the empowerment that it gave is unsurpassed, and it's stayed with me and my husband forever since.
They're skills for life. And I think that it's a bit like when you get married. You know how you kind of have this extra budget where you can afford various things? Having a baby is a bit like that too. You tap into funds you didn't realise you had. Okay. But one of the things that we often overlook is that excuse for empowerment for ourselves. And I often think, you know, the breathing that I learnt, because I did calm birth when I was pregnant with our first. The second, by the time we had our second, I'd become a calm birth practitioner because I just loved the information. We then filmed a professional birth film, the birth education film called Hello Baby. And then by the time I think I hit... gosh, it must have been after number 4. I'm losing track, but there's so many kids in there. But I think that I had moved so far beyond. I actually wrote my own birth program because I actually thought we can bring men in even more. And more than that, we can bring focus into the baby that is growing within, who is paying attention to their environment. And I know that that can feel like an upsetting thing when you're pregnant and you think about all the transgressions, you know. Oh, I thought this and I had a moment when I thought that, and that is absolutely true. But wouldn't you rather have this information not? Wouldn't you want to know that you have a direct line to this baby who is listening to you and responding to how you feel and being prepared for the outside world? If we can help families understand that they have that access to their baby, then I think we'll start seeing big changes in even mental health for young people.
Do you even agree having a natural vaginal birth is sort of going out of style versus now where it's more caesarean driven?
I think there's sort of an egoic response that people think it's easier. but it's because they're not tooled up. Now, when you change your mindset, so one of the things I got really stuck into when I was creating my birth course was I started creating mind movies. I don't know if you've heard about those. Fabulous. I love everything that is like a fast hack because I've decided time's a concept, right? So I do all sorts of crazy things that are meant to be really like just shorten the whole period that you need to create mindset changes, right? So mind movies are a visual meditation that include affirmation and mine were... Like I created mine based on, I muscle tested what was going to be the highest vibrational combination of words to help the betterment of the community. And then you watch these and they go for like 2 minutes. But there's something that happens. Like I remember when we showed a bunch of our friends, McGill's hiding in the corner, but we showed a bunch of our friends the I Am Dad one, which is all about preparing men to step into that space of being dads. And these men, I mean, we were having a barbecue and I was like, just finish the I Am Dad mind movie. Who wants to see it? Anyway, they stood around this little computer screen and then we watched, what was it, like 4 of the men there, they just dissolved into tears. There was something that hit their heart that they didn't know was even sitting there waiting to be accessed. And it was this beautiful, nurturing, loving softness that society doesn't support them to show. We have to wait until they have permission to show up in that space, but it's there.
So is that something, when they watch that video, is that something that triggered in them, or is that something that was suppressed or that they did experience but they couldn't voice it at the time?
I think it was a subconscious...
like they'd never been welcomed to the space before.
That's exactly right. I think it was an invitation, and I think it was a validation of how they feel. And then it's funny because all these things end up interlinking. The podcast we created, which I very much am aware I will not pronounce on this program. Because
I did want you to describe it for us, so maybe we can spell it out.
That's right. Yeah. I know. For those listening at home, our podcast is called FAARK, which sounds a lot like fire truck, the shoulds. And the thing about the shoulds, it was like this epiphany when we were talking about, so we'll shorten it to FTS because I love an acronym. Yeah. The thing about FTS, when you notice the shoulds, they are like they're the red flags in your life where programming is creeping in, where it's not yours. And so when you hear yourself say, we should do this, is that true? Like, do you really want to do that?
That was brought to me in like the 2000s.
Yep.
What are these shoulds? Can you tell us? Yeah.
I was told not to say should, it'd say ought to or would or could, but not the shoulds, because it's like a yes or no and a real domineering space to be in.
Well, I would say ought to, which is now my...
Yeah, ought to.
Well, no. I'm going to say ought to is now my substitute for should, because we say the long version of FTS in our household, our then 6-year-old, was even 5, McGill, would say literally FARK, the shoulds, every time we said should. So he was like this. So suffice to say, he's been swearing for quite some time now because he's almost 10. But the point is that it picked us up on that. And so, in fact, I would try and say ought. And so then he would say FARK, the oughts. And I'm like, wow, I'm really getting caught out on this. But the point was that, again, the genius of this little soul reflecting to us, that's not how you really feel, Mum. So when I say, I should do this or I should do that, what am I really doing? Am I satisfying some societal need? And I think that if you want to circle back to how women give birth, you know, they should look like $1 million immediately after birthing this baby. They should have a pain-free birth. And I'm like, how can you have the biggest poo of your life and not have some feeling with it, right? Yes. Like, I would want to know that was happening. I would want to be paying attention. Yeah. So this idea that it is pain-free is nonsense. But do I use pain? No, because it's like running a marathon. When you cross the finish line, even though you are hurting, the exhilaration is going to drown out anything else that you have experienced, and you will say, great, when can I do my next marathon? That's the empowerment I'm after. Yeah.
We're speaking with Jodie from QuantiMama on the social frequency. We're having such a great conversation and connecting over stories. I'm wondering, so QuantiMama, you're a project. We've talked about sort of the ethos behind it, but how do you actually sort of go about supporting women and mothers and fathers to achieve this high frequency, high vibration birthing? Yeah. And I guess like the actual like pregnancy is obviously part of it as well, right? Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I think as my kids get older, we started homeschooling them about 4 years ago when there were all the lockdowns going on. We ended up giving them the option. So we started parenting from a real place of consent. And I think that idea was essentially, pun intended, impregnated for us while we were pregnant. As you start thinking about being expectant and you start thinking about this permission-based world and how do you want to live, and then how do you want to bring your kids into this world, and do you want to have them have a seat at the table voting in what happens for them with their life? So part of what QuantiMama does now is it supports parents who are looking, particularly the parents who are feeling so isolated but struggling to support their children who are, just feeling a dissonance with school.
Is that through education, or is that through, do you have like workshop programs?
Yeah, we do. So we run a fortnightly webinar for a snappy half an hour for basically parents to just get some clarity about what they need to do to support their kids. And their kids don't have to be struggling, but I think that parenting can feel really hard and isolating. And you can read a million different experiences on different forums and social media and so forth, but I'm interested in what is going to be the key in your lock to help you get into a better space with your kids, because I think that we actually all have our own truth barometer within ourselves. So
very self-determined sort of work that you do.
The inner compass. I actually think we're all our own experts, but we just don't trust that, right? Yeah. That's been programmed out of us. So
is that a should? You should trust the doctors and you should trust the healthcare system.
Yes, it is. I mean, it is the white coat. Yeah.
We have this conversation at work quite often. Yeah. And especially trying to keep up with the new fads, electrical, everything that goes on, and the whirlwind that you sort of get swept up in.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel, so not quashed, but sometimes you almost have to pick your audience to choose to share that information with. And I often tell Georgia here, you can do it. You can pare it all back down to the basics. So you don't have to, have the latest iPhone or the latest everything. No. But if you can pare it down and just do those community groups and tap into it, is that what you sort of do? Is that your...
We are. I mean, look, we're trying multi-pronged approach. I think we've been running in-person community collectives, but that it's interesting because I think that there's so many parents hurting out across Australia. We actually need to be available online. So we're doing fortnightly webinars. We have a course called Take the Leap for parents as well who are interested in moving towards perhaps an alternate education. Miguel and I wrote that as we started homeschooling our kids, and ostensibly it's about deprogramming parents because it's about us getting out of the way of our kids. We have a beautiful space that is called the Birth Sanctuary Ballerine, and that is a space that families can come and give birth. We fall within the half an hour radius for Geelong Hospital, so if people have a funded home birth, they can actually do that. We had a birth there a week and a half ago. Oh my gosh, and my heart I was like, it's lucky that we can't have any more kids because I would totally have more. So that we've got that, and and we basically support people however we can. We do placenta encapsulation. There's just anything we do, we can, right? Sure. So it's just about finding a way to support people into a better space of their life so they can be the ripple effect through their community.
What's your website, Jodie?
Amazingly, it is QuantiMama.com. So that's Quanti with an I and Mama, M-A-M-A.
Jodie, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. I wish we had more time. You'll have to come in again some other time and we can have a chat again. So thank you so much.
I would be delighted. Thank you. And
Nice
of course,
to meet
you
you,
must
Jodie.
bring Janelle back.
Yeah, definitely. I think she's going to have a seat at my broadcasting table anytime she likes.